tells me about your word on Sundays. I never go, but tell them I'll go with them one day. They say you have the answers I've been longing for, but somehow I don't feel like I'm on one accord with you. I believe you have something for me alone. Humbly, Lord, how do I approach the throne? Cause all I have to offer, Lord, is it enough? I give you my trust. I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? I have heard you dried the eyes of many, healed more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Hey, hey. Is there room for me? Oh, no. I heard how you saved Daniel from the lion's den and stayed with Jonah in the well he was within. I need the protection. I know I'm not worthy. I'm in a state of desperation, Lord, I need that mercy. I believe you have something for me alone. Humbly, Lord, how do I approach the throne? Cause all I have to offer, Lord, is it enough? I give you my trust. I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? I have heard you dried the eyes of many, healed more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room for me? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Is there room for me? Tell me, is there room? Hey, hey. Is there room for me? I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Can you take me in? I heard you won't dry the eyes of many, heal more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Can you take me in? I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Can you take me in? I heard you dry the eyes of many, heal my heart. Can you take me in? I heard you're a miracle worker, graceful healer for sinner. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? I have heard you dried the eyes of many, heal more hearts, love for plenty. Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me? Can you take me in? Is there room for me? Is there room for me?
You're listening to Launch with Kim
and Dr. Newt on Praise.fm.
Welcome to Launch.
Kim
And Dr. Newt.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. Everybody.
I'm sorry. Let me turn my sound down and
Well, we get
send this message out really quickly. But while Newt talks to you really quick.
Welcome. Oh shit! So she's gonna put it on me to talk.
Yes.
Again, always on me to talk. I was trying to say hi to Akai Yule for logging in. Thank you very much for spending your time. And Yem Jim.
Hi,
Appreciate
Yemi.
you jumping in. And I don't know how to start like you do. You do it better than I do.
Oh my goodness! Look at him, guys. This is the beauty of marriage, being able to figure out what you do best and what the other person does best. But we just want to welcome you guys. Hope you had a beautiful
I tell you what,
week.
I do best. I get up and I get something to eat. That's about it.
No, that is just not true.
She does everything else.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Not true. But we are all actually on week 5.
You guys saw Coming to America. White birds? No, just kidding.
There are no white birds. There is nobody hopping on one foot around here. There's nobody barking like a dog. It just ain't happening. Oh, he is so silly. See, that's when you know he's tired, when he is over. Yeah. God bless you, Pastor Robert Clay. And for those of you who are on, thank you so much. Yeah, Joey, that's my cousin Joey.
What's going on, Joey? I ain't seen you in a while, man. The whole man out here now.
Yeah, he is.
Last time I saw, was he what?
In high school,
probably. Huh? Yeah. Wow.
So hello, guys. This has been a very busy week. Definitely for my family, and just ask you guys to continue to pray for the families. I had 2 family members that we lost in the past 5 or 6 days. So I just ask you all to pray for those families and any family that's dealing with something at this time. We just pray God's blessings over you. And we just pray that, guy's saying something. We just pray that there's peace in your home and in your families, for sure. What we're doing now is finishing our week 5. We actually started with pretty much about marriage covenant and understanding the benefits and the purpose of the covenant. And then also speaking about those things that cause divorces and what to watch for before you even get married. We kind of have a combination. We hit a few different things, try to spread it out a little bit more. I think we did it in a 1-day conference at one time and just gave all this information. Yeah. And anybody knows Newt and I, we are educators. So educators pour information out, and
we're gonna flood you.
We don't even realize it, that it can be just a bit too much.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, for some people. So we kind of pulled it apart a little bit and spread it out for over 5 weeks. Yeah. And we're on the final part this week, which is the life application. What should you do if your marriage is in a bad situation? What should you do when you both are willing to work on it and to make it what it should be?
Yeah.
What can we do? And based upon what we've been talking about for the past 4 weeks, this being week 5, we do have some things. However, there is no magic potion. And as a matter of fact, I don't even believe in magic. So there is no potion. There is no one-size-fits-all situation. We can give you some things that we use that helped us, but you yourself have to put in the time and the effort to work on what works for your family. Yeah. So maybe we should review really quick, Newt. You want to kind of, for those who are new coming to us, what we've been talking about for the past few weeks. Newt's going to share. Do you want to share the sound too?
Whoops. You know, I always do that. Let me stop.
Newt's going to share the PowerPoint because that's what we have.
Every time. I don't care where I am, work, wherever.
Forget to share the sound.
And then I have to go back
and share the sound. So we're glad you guys have stopped by today. There's so many great things that's happening. And although we're dealing with some other things that are hurtful and, you know, painful, we know that life goes on and we have to continue to live. And right. I mean, we just have to continue. Right. Okay, so Newt, you want to talk a little bit real quick about
so that? We're just going to do a real quick review for you of our last few weeks. So basically, Marriage Symbols Pie, that is one
of our brand, our marriage brand.
Our marriage brand. And we had you guys kind of talk about, you know, who are you? You know, what do you do? Who do you see? When someone says, who are you? What do you think? And we had you kind of write that down, and then we came back to it last week a little bit. We let you see a video by Miles Monroe, Divorce is Worse Than Death.
Yes.
And we talked about why a little bit. Then we gave you some data, and that data was on the divorce rate, where we showed you about 2.9 out of every 1,000 people in the U.S. are divorced. The highest rates in the Northwest, kind of 7.2 per every 1,000 persons. So in the Northeast, and 10 for every 1,000 in the South. And the average length of the marriages in the United States were 8 years old. And this is 2018 data. 2018, 2019. It was 2018 data. And 42% of all marriages in the U.S. ended divorce. So we explained that that's down from 50%, but it's because less millennials are getting married. So we shared that with you. Then we talked to you. We gave you 10 reasons. And this data came from a conglomeration of divorce lawyers across the country. They all captured their data, and they looked at one database and they ranked them. And these were the top 10 reasons. And we went through each of these reasons and talked a little bit about each of them. We won't do that tonight. You can look that back up. Then we jumped into our first category. Well, we said there's 3 categories, really. Lies in the mind, fears that speak, and hidden influences. And we took a week each to break down these categories and what they mean, how they kind of apply to us. We gave examples, and we went through each of those.
Shared some fun videos, some things that you can kind of look at to see what happens in relationships and what things we have in our mind about marriage and covenant.
And as far as lies in the mind, this was the main slide. And again, you can look at the replays. But lies in their mind are things that we were taught or we experienced coming up as youngsters. You know, it was just part of our culture. So we accepted those things about marriage, but they were not true. So, you know, like for instance, marriages don't last forever. So we already had that in our mind when we walked in, just some things. So we listed some things and we kind of went through each of those. Then we came to, and this slide shows up each week. And we said that the reason why lies in the mind are effective, why they're working in us, is because we have to accept that those lies in our minds are in play and that we failed to face them and we didn't know that we could even change them. Then we went from that week and we started telling you, whoops, I think I hit the link. Didn't mean to hit the link. Sorry about that, you guys. Let me go back.
If you have more than $10,000,
I don't want to hit the link. I want to go back to the PowerPoint. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Sorry about that. There it is. Sorry about that. So as far as the lies in the mind, so we went to Fears That Speak. We talked about that a little, and we shared with you that fears that speak are things that cause apprehensions or reservations. Things that kind of hold you back from being totally transparent and vulnerable. And we listed some fears that speak in our minds. And these were the top 4 that we talked about. And again, these things are whispering in our ears. They're like a still small voice in our ears, but they're screaming out loud in our minds. So it's not like someone's saying them to us, but they're like built into us. So they're so loud and they cause us to make choices.
And they affect our relationships because these are things that we brought with us to our relationship, to our marriage. And these are the things that are kind of controlling us and, molding us. And this is how we're responding to our spouse while we're in covenant with them. So we don't give all of ourselves to them.
Exactly, because we're afraid of these things.
Yes.
They're fears.
They are definitely fears.
But they're speaking in our ears. And the reason why they're so powerful is because we have not accepted that lies in the mind and fears that speak are in play. They're in play, whether you want to agree or not, and we fail to face them. And even if we acknowledge them, we didn't even know that we could change them, so we just accepted them. And then the third category was hidden influences. And hidden influences were things that have conditioned us. So that they became our culture. So they're just our standard operating procedure, our norm. So they've conditioned us, and those choices, they impact our choices, and our actions.
And you have to think about it, like in your relationship, if there's something that you keep running into every time, then maybe you need to sit down and write down what those things are and start to fine-tooth comb that stuff to find out what has influenced you to feel, think, or behave this way that's causing problems in your relationship.
Right. And I personally think this is one of the larger ones. I think this one kind of overlaps with some of the others as well. So we gave you some categories or some examples there, how we were raised, past failures, habits, different past relationships, all these things, expectations, family, hiding spots, places where we hid and didn't let anybody see certain things about us. All those things were hidden influences. It's hiding under the covers, just like the cat in the picture there. I guess that's the cat. But just kind of hiding and waiting and influencing us and impacting our actions and our choices. And the reason why they are so effective is
And
because
again.
we have not accepted that lies in the mind, fears that speak, and hidden influences are in play in our lives, whether we want to admit it or not. They're in play. And we fail to face them, and we didn't even know we could change them. So that's why they're so effective. And then we last week
Talked about covenant.
So we got out of the 3 categories and we got into something much wider, and we talked about covenant. And we gave it a definition, binding and sealed agreement contract that serves as a sheltered nook. And we broke that down, each portion, each part of that definition. We broke it down for you last week, and kind of lined it up for you. So I want to say this to you.
Yeah, Kai Frisk.
The reason why we say something about covenant in this is not just because it sounds like a nice word or sounds deep or anything.
Right.
But you have to understand that your marriage, the institution of marriage, is bigger than you.
That's right.
So even when you know your partner is not lovable, you have to look to the institution of marriage.
Right.
That's bigger than you. You know, it's not just about you. So that's why we put that word covenant in. It's a giant word. We have to look to our covenant sometimes. Now,
go ahead.
We're not talking about the ABCs,
right?
You know, abuse and cheating and things of that sort. But you know, just when I'm not lovable, when I'm irritable, you know, or I'm stubborn, or I don't want to hear it, or whatever the case may be, covenant has to be, you know, what Kim, you know, kind of defaults to, which is bigger than her feelings, which is bigger than her. You know, you ain't gonna talk to me that way, kind of thing. You know,
you have to, if I can say, you have to look at it from God's perspective. When you're not being as lovable, or as honest, or as committed, or as respectful to His word, and then you have to look at it. If you are that person that's not being that, look at His position. Is loving you anyway, in spite of it, in spite of you, in spite of the situation. That's the difference. His covenant with you is lifelong. He doesn't break it. It's that binding seal agreement that is a sheltered nook for you, and it's a protective place for you to be. So your position then, when that person is not as lovable, is to stand and posture the same way God postures when He looks at you when you're not being that.
Right. So that's what we meant. I told you she does it better. Then we kind of,
this is a good one,
went from that large concept of covenant to bring it back, you know, to bring it down and say, listen, that our baggage, back to those 3 things, that the baggage we bring with us, you know, according to our book, Baggage Claim, the baggage we bring with us is a governor. And we reference that back to the scripture that you usually hear it referenced differently, but we referenced it this time, Galatians 4:1-2, where it talks about the heir is there's a son, and he's an heir, you know, but until he's mature, until that appointed day, then he's, you know, no more than the servant, right? And how he gets mature is to sit under governors and tutors. And we talked about how tutors talk to your skill set and your aptitude, but your governors are the things that affect your character.
Dealing with that character.
Right, and character is a gigantic word we don't talk about enough, I believe.
Right.
Character is that thing that just doesn't change no matter what, you know, whether things are good or bad, a lot of money, not a lot of money, alone with somebody, your character is defines who you are.
And that's why we had you write those things down in the beginning, because it's not who you are, but it's how you are. And your character shows how you are. Today I was listening to someone share the word, and he used Job, and he talked about how at a certain time in Job's life, he was able to see who the people was that he had around him, and not only who they were, how they were towards him. And we have got to be very careful. When Newt went back and said those 3 things are in the midst of this, they are, because those are the things that make that governor or make you behave the way you behave. Those are the things that are pulling the strings that have you behave a certain way. You know, that those hidden influences, those lies, those voices that are speaking to you, that is what is controlling you. And those are the things that if we do not address them, you will not be able to change them.
Exactly. So that takes us into what I think is one of the most powerful statements that we always to be married.
Say that again.
You just have to want to
I
be
don't
married.
want to be married.
You know, because whenever you take two things that are not the same
Mm-hmm.
and try to mold them together, can I?
Go ahead.
So there's I taught science. So there's mixtures, there's compounds, and then there's something that happens that's called fusion.
Mm-hmm.
So with a compound, a mixture, I can put, let's say, I can put some salt and some sugar and some pepper in a beaker, and I can stir it up and shake it up. That's a mixture, right? Now it might take me a while, but I can reverse that mixture.
Mm-hmm.
I can separate it, sift it out, and get all the pepper, and it might take me a while, but I can. It's not impossible.
Right.
With the compound, it's a little tougher because I took that salt, that pepper, and that sugar, and I put some water in it.
Right.
And water, those things are water soluble, so they kind of mix together. And yes, so they look like they're inseparable.
Mm-hmm.
But you can separate them by something called reverse osmosis. But now you got to do a whole nother operation, we'll just call it like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when something is fused together,
Yeah.
when it's fused together, the atoms,
Mm-hmm.
it's called the valence atoms, electrons, they combine.
Mm-hmm.
And when that thing is fused, a whole new substance is created.
Mm-hmm.
And marriage is not a mixture,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a combination, it's a fusion. It's a fusion, and that fusion starts from actually before you start getting married, when you start courting. But the day that you make that covenant before God, and it's confirmed by blood,
Mm-hmm.
from that point on, you start doing the work to fuse together.
Mm-hmm. And creating a new thing.
Right. And you have to choose to do that,
Yes.
because it's not just physical.
Yeah. And that's where we get.
Yes.
That's a problem.
It's not just physical, and it's not just soulistic.
Mm.
You know, it's also spiritual.
Yes.
So you have to really want to. When I'm saying you, I'm talking about your soul man has to want to. Your will, your intellect, and your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And your spirit man will follow easy, because that's what God wanted for us, you know, from
It's
the
already
beginning.
established as a covenant.
Right.
But that soul, man, that flesh, and you have to speak to it.
Yes.
You have to talk to it. So once you've made the choice to be married, if you are going to continue to be married, you then have to use the word to control and to teach you, just like that governor, that you have to teach yourself, okay, I'm not going to say those things about him.
Right.
I'm not going to behave or respond to him that way.
Right.
I'm not going to do it not just for him, but I'm not going to do it for the covenant's sake.
Right.
For the promise that
That's
I
bigger than
made.
me, yes.
It's bigger than me.
Yes.
So we've got to look at it that way.
So that's
Mhm.
why, and I forget what the scripture, I think it's Matthew 19, where it talks about this marriage.
Largeness.
The
Yes,
largeness of this marriage, the largeness of marriage. It's
Yes.
not for everyone. And it says it, you know,
1912, baby.
Okay, Matthew 19:12, in the, was it Message?
I think I used the message.
Message, right. If you read in the Message, it talks about the largeness of this relationship. And it's
Yes.
not for everyone.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to go flat out and say it. If you're immature,
Come on.
you're not going to be able to have a sustained marriage.
Mhm.
You might be able to make it a few months, 6 months, 8 months, I don't know, a couple years maybe, depending on who you are or what you have going on in your life. But marriage will mature you. It will
Absolutely.
expose you.
If you allow it.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's just what happens.
Mhm.
It's just what happens because you're fusing together, and there's nowhere to hide. You know,
Right.
there's nowhere to hide, and what's being expected of each other is reasonable.
Right.
But if you're not mature enough, then you're just like that Galatians 4:2.
Yes.
You're an heir. You know, it's all yours. It's, you know, and come on, and I want to say, dummy, God created Eve for Adam. You know, so and Adam is there for Eve. We're
Right.
for each other. We belong
That's
to
the
each
key
other.
word,
You know, you know. But if you want to be immature
Yeah.
and chase and run and avoid and not grow internally, then I mean, all I can say is dummy. You know, you're not going to get what's yours. And so anyway,
I'm sorry, New saying dummy, but that's kind of.
you don't like when I say that.
I don't like it.
But I wanted to really make the point, you know, like it's yours, you know. It's yours. So, you know, it's not even hard, you know.
Yes, if you are willing.
Yeah.
But that's why that scripture says about that largeness. You've
Right.
got to be willing. You've got to be willing and ready to grow into this large
Right.
thing called marriage.
Right.
Can we go to the next one?
Right. And it's a choice. I got to say this because I'm looking at the physical attractions, reactions, distractions, and interactions. Things are going to change, you guys.
Absolutely.
Things are going to change. You know, my stomach is not as flat as it used to be. You know,
Guys, look at my eyes like
you
rolling.
know,
I'm rolling
you
my
know, like,
eyes. How
just-
dare he?
You know, it's we change physically. We change, and in different capacities mentally.
Yes.
Desires, likes, dislikes, what, you know, things like that change.
Absolutely.
And we have to grow with each other together
Mhm.
in those kind of things. So which means you have to choose.
Yes,
You have to choose. Every 10 years, you're looking at another person.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You know?
And ladies, we understand that because we go through menopause, we go through different things, and you may be the same weight, but things shift. It's just the way it is. But guess what? It's happening on the other side with your companion as well.
Right.
But choosing to love not a representative of them, but who they are in the inside out.
Yes.
So important.
I'm sorry, it takes so long on that slide, but I just think that's important.
That is a very important
Very,
one.
you know.
Exactly, because we can't get to the steps to putting things back together, give you life application if you don't choose to be married.
Right.
That's it. We talked a little bit about how versus who, which I just touched on a little bit already. You know, you can be gifted, you can be talented, you can be eternally great. And then, but guess what? It's just not enough. You have to have your character intact.
Yes.
And if it's not intact, then you are not going to make a good decision in your relationship. And there will be issues that you won't be able to deal with because you are immature. So
Right.
I think, I don't really think we need to go over this. You guys can go back and watch.
Yeah. I just want to emphasize that character is key.
Character is
Character's
absolutely,
key, you know.
it's the key.
It's key. You know, and if there's anyone who should know me raw and uncut in my strengths, my best day, my worst day,
Mhm.
is Kimberly H.
Hope. See, that's why God gave me that middle name,
Kimberly Hope
Corey.
Colbert Miller. That's who should know. You know, and in all honesty, even if I try to hide things, she's the one that's going to know.
Mhm. And should be the one to know.
I can outsmart my mom with some things as far as my character. I mean, it's been years since I lived in her household,
Mhm.
but not this lady right here. And I need to be okay with that.
Exactly.
It's
And
what
me
I'm-
too.
So it's about my how, not
Mhm.
my who.
Mhm.
You know,
Not who you are.
Yes.
But how are you?
and that's who she loves,
Mhm.
right?
That's right. We talked about this last week about the enemy's goal is to cut the ending off of the covenant because it's the activating power. It's what keeps you. And we have to be very careful. But we're going to give you some steps today and have you, for those of you who are willing, who want to be married, if you've made that choice that you desire to be married, if you're not married, if you've made the choice that you want to make it work, then this part is for you. If you've made the choice that you want to have good relationships with people, then this part is for you. But if you have completely decided against it and you refuse to make any changes, you may listen, but I promise you, if you do not put anything to work, you don't work anything, it will not be, how do you say that? If you don't put in the work, it won't be workable. It won't be a good situation. But you definitely need to know there are some life application things that you have to apply to not your spouse, but to yourself.
Can I say this?
Yes.
What we're going to share is not something that you want to apply just when things are going bad.
Yeah. This is
You
a
know,
daily thing.
it's kind of a daily thing,
It is.
and it's a daily thing. You know, it's a good practice. So there's 5 steps we want to show you.
These were our steps, guys. Remember what we told you? These were the things that we had to do. And I really believe that they are perfect for people who are going through a really tough time, but they really love their spouse and they want to be together. And
Right.
you want to be married.
Right. I heard someone say, and this is kind of kind of on the outskirts. When I heard someone say, you know, once you write a book, then that means you're an expert on the thing, you know, and they kind of were saying it in a more sarcastic way. And so I'm like, yeah, we wrote a book. Yeah, we are the expert because the book's about our marriage.
Ours, right.
So we doggone are the experts, right?
Of our own marriage.
Right, and we're sharing with you what we know, what we walked through, so that you can apply it in your arena, how it applies to you. So that first step is to go back and remember why.
Definitely.
Right.
You've got to think about why you got married. You know that movie, who is it? Tyler Perry's movie? I don't know. I think it's Tyler Perry's movie.
Why'd I Get Married?
Why'd I Get Married? That was a really great title of a movie. But the truth is, you really need to think about it.
Right.
You really need to figure this out. For those of you who are already married and you're trying to figure out, are we going to be together? Think about why you married them. Go back and remember, reminisce on those things, not just the feelings they gave you, but that relationship that you guys started to establish, those goals that you were creating together.
Right, right.
And have you accomplished them? And if not, what has blocked you? Go back and remember. You got something?
So I knew, just me personally, and I'm condensing this. So it's gonna sound short, but I'm condensing it. So I know when I met Kim, I was at a very tumultuous time in my life. It was a crossroad. So I've had several crossroads. I've had crossroads since we've been together, but it was a crossroad in my life at that point in time. And I recognized right away, and this is aside from, you know, the Tommy Hilfiger shorts she had on, you know, in the peach oil she was wearing, you know, it's aside from all those things.
I'm so glad he still remembers it.
It's aside from all those things, you know, and just the fun that we had, you know, the fact that we could go on a date. I had $7, you know, and we went and bought a water ice. What do you call them?
He calls them water ice. We call them like the ices.
Yeah. So we went and bought that and went for a walk, you know, and just besides the fact that, you know, that was enough for her, I recognized right away the biggest part of my why I knew that I needed to stop what I was doing and get close to this young lady and do whatever I needed to do so she would get close to me, was I saw that she was good for me right then. Her values, her system, the way she operated, her outlook, her positivity, just the, you know, and the strength that she had was something that I needed in my life. And I knew that it was something that I didn't just need right then. It was something I was going to need because of what I got myself into. So when times came, when things were rough in our marriage, I always remembered that, you know, I really need what she brings to the table. It's you know, I'm trying not to prolong it. I'm trying not to stutter too, but I would think about like where I came from, what I did not have. And in that short amount of time, look at my life now. And what was the one thing that changed in my life? Well, the one thing that changed was I married Kim. And the rules in my life changed. You know? He
actually got some rules. I could say also that same thing. Nuke brought something completely different. He was different than who I would have ever dated. He was, I'll say this, but not offensively. He was kind
better than that.
He was kind of nerdy, you know.
He was still nerdy.
It was different because I always had the athlete, you know, guy that, you know, I always had that. And he was intelligent. He was very nice. And he always wanted to make sure that I was okay. So it was like, well, what do you want? So it was reverse. Whatever you like. No, it wasn't that good. But he was always concerned about me. So those were the things that I remembered. His concern for me. I would come home from work And there would be a box, not boxes, but a box on the bed where he had taken out time to go to a store and pick out a dress for me. Or there was perfume, where he wanted me to try something different. So Newt brought something fresh, something different, something that I had never experienced. He exposed me to a world that I would have never delved into. And because of that, there's been so many changes. And if I look back over, I have several degrees now behind because of Newt's influence and encouragement. And just so many good things have happened because I married Newt.
Yeah,
so
we covered some ground, so
it was some tough work.
Right. We had some tough days.
Absolutely.
We had some tough days. But in those tough days, I personally would remember why.
Yeah.
When I would get the fuss in with myself, and how you walking and you talking to yourself and you're running the tapes in your mind, you're in your head. And I would always remember like an episode of me before Kim, driving my bucket. That's what my car was called, back in Chester in the project, and just life was different, and I didn't even have the aspirations. I didn't even think that I could accomplish the things that I was doing, and how did I even get in those arenas? Well, man, I don't even want to start.
When you have covenant,
start.
Covenant causes doors to open.
Right.
Covenant causes things that would not be to be.
Yes.
When you have established that covenant with that person who is for you. There's the key again. We said it before. You're for him, he's for you. The word for is what helps that door to open.
Right.
I'm for him, he's for me. Together, we come together as a force. That's what I said at the end of the covenant, A-N-T. That's the activating force. When you have it together, it will activate things that would have never been opened in your life.
And I'm a witness. I kid you not.
Too.
I don't even want to tell you all my business, but maybe one day we'll do a master class. But I'm a witness. You've got to remember why. Got to remember why.
That's key. We're going to be on this all day. Let's move on. Highlight the pros. And when we say about pros, we mean pros and cons.
Right.
And Newt we kind of covered it, but yeah.
So what we have a tendency to do as human beings, you could do 100,000 great things, right? And everybody's benefiting, everything's going well. But you do one thing that's not great, one thing that everyone sees as bad, and that's what they're going to focus on. They're going to magnify that one thing and forget the 100,000 great things. And that's in every area. That's just kind of human nature. For some reason, especially in our society, I don't know about Eastern societies or in Africa, I don't know, but I know here in the United States, we tend to focus
on that
negative. And so what we're saying to you is we're not saying that there's not going to be negative.
Right. There's going to be.
We're not saying that.
It just is. There's going to be something you don't like or he doesn't like.
Right.
But can I say this
a few times a day?
Right. Can I say this before you go? Here is the thing that I used to say. Out of the 365 days in just this year, you were upset with me twice. And then subtract that from the 365 days. And then I want you to look at the other days, the 363 days.
Right.
And that will help you as an individual know, you know what? I have been focusing on the negative.
Right.
Let me give some praise or credit to what has already been done. And that's what we've got to do.
Right. So it's really the principle of magnifying. He says, when God says, oh, come magnify.
Yeah.
Whoever says, come magnify the Lord with me, let us exalt his name together. So the word let means, there's some restriction there.
Yes.
So the restriction is our mind. So come magnify. Make the thing greater.
Make it large.
The thing that you choose to make great is the thing that's going to be great in your life, right? So we're saying highlight the pros. Get yourself some pen and some paper.
Come on.
Right? And you literally write down the pros. You literally write them down. I don't care how small they may seem in your mind. You force yourself to get out of the negative space and get into the positive space. There's a reason you married that person, you know, in the beginning. Now we understand that there are some relationships that are abusive. There's some relationships that are toxic, that are in a space that maybe there needs to be some distance between you.
Because they're not mature.
Right. But if you're not in that space and it's just rough times, it's just, you know, some sandpaper, then you gotta highlight the pros.
Yep.
You have to write them down. Write it down.
Yes.
You know, whether it's just the smile they bring, whether it's just the fact that, you know, they play ball with the kids. I don't know. They show up at the games. Whatever. They wash
you
the
a cup
dishes.
of tea.
Right.
Make you a cup of tea.
Right.
Anything.
You know,
appreciate
whatever
it.
it is.
Those are pros. Those are positive things.
Get them in front of you so you can magnify them.
Yes.
What
there
you
it is.
make great is what is great in your life. We are in God's image and in God's likeness. That means we are what God is, and we can do things like Him. So you wanna say, "Let there be light." You want. The only way you can do that is if that's what you're magnifying. That's what's in front of you. So write them down. Highlight the pros. Step 3.
Communicate, which is something we have always done. Now I'm big on communication.
More than me.
I'm big on talking. You're big on communicating when it's educational stuff. But what has happened is we have grown into that. So now sometimes we just sit and, like how we're talking to you guys like this, we have done this for hours and hours, just talking and talking. Communicating, not just talking, but communicating means you also have to listen.
Usually Sunday morning.
Yeah, Sunday morning, that used to be our time. We be preaching to each other. But not just talking, but communicating. That means you are speaking and listening. It's going back and forth. Then you're coming into an agreement on something. You're understanding more about that person. That's another level of communicating. You're watching them. That's another level of communicating. Seeing how they shift and move and the way they think. That is also communicating, because you're getting information. Inside that word communication, there's information, there's hearing, there's knowledge, there's understanding, there's acceptance. Communication is larger than just you talking.
And the thing about communication, you look at the word, you break it apart, you got commune.
That's what I mean.
So commune is a couple of things. It's a place where you live, right? And it's also, it means one.
Yes.
Right? So it's a place where you live together. And how do you do that? With the 8 piece, which is, there has to be some transaction. It goes back and forth. But the transaction is not about you.
Right.
Is what Kim's getting at. The commune part is together. So what I'm transacting with Kim is more emotionally intelligent. It's more like your needs, her needs, right? And I'm trusting that she's doing the same thing with me. And if she's not, then I'm going to continue and I'm going to model that, because eventually it will come back.
Model the behavior you want.
Yes. So that communication piece, that in context of this, you know, there's some difficult times in your marriage. You say we're going to put the pieces back together. The communication, and this is in our book as well. But we talk about the four phases of communication: real rough, results, and recovery.
Yes.
So that communication goes through a cycle.
Yes, it does.
And it doesn't always start out nice.
Doesn't always feel good.
Right. There's issues that have to be addressed. And I'm saying this to us men, because women, they speak 3 times more words than us a day. That's just the nature of a woman, right? So
it's researchable, guys.
Right,
It's researchable.
I'm not
so don't be offended.
I'm not being misogynistic, right? And we'll get to the point where we just don't want to hear it, because we don't communicate like that. We're not.
Or you don't know how to handle all of those words.
It's too much for us. Too much for us, right? So what we'll do is we'll avoid saying the one thing that if she knows that she can take that and do something with it, and it can help solve or help fix whatever the issue is. But we'll avoid saying it because it's rough.
Yes.
And we know that initially it's going to increase the number of words that are going to be said right then.
That's right.
Right? So I'm saying to you, come past that and commune,
Yes.
common together and transact. Say that thing respectfully,
Exactly. That's key.
nicely,
Mhm.
as if you will want it said to you. And I'm telling you that a woman by design is an incubator.
Mhm.
If you give that to her, she's going to incubate that. She's going to grow a solution.
Yes.
It's going
Yes.
it's going to start healing the
Mhm.
whole situation.
Yes. But you have to move past talking and really communicate.
Right.
Commune. Absolutely. That is good.
Right. So it's not about you. It's
Yes. That was so good.
Right.
We could hit that one is a conversation we could stay on for a long
Yeah, that's
time
a master
too, because
class.
it's a master. It is. It's like a huge issue.
Right.
In relationships, most of them is problematic because of the communicating.
Right.
Because we've been talking instead of communicating.
Right. It's just in Black men, especially from socioeconomically distressed communities. I call us at potential populations. We tend not to communicate because we've been taught that that's weakness.
Yes.
And we've been taught to be survival minded. And if you're vulnerable, then you could be attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you that when you're in a marriage covenant, you are on the same team. You are
Yes.
fused together.
Mhm.
So there is no vulnerability. Is the only way that you can properly fuse.
Right.
If you're not vulnerable, then you're not fusing. You're just a mixture or a
Yes. The
combination.
combination.
So
that's really powerful.
that's
Write that down. That's a good one.
that's where we are.
That's good.
That's where we are. So we got to go past that. We got to grow past that. We have to get to those tutors and governors. We got to mature.
Yes, grow up. Here we are on 4, involve the fourth party. So before we talk about that, I just want to say for those of you who are on, because some may go off before this, I feel like I need to say this. In a situation where it is really hard, it's problematic, before you involve a fourth party, before anything happens, close this.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
What happens when you are angry and upset and hurt? You keep talking, you start to talk out of your feelings and emotions.
Right.
It causes more issues.
Right.
You can't take those words back. They have power.
Mhm.
When they are released, they start to operate and do whatever they were sent out to do, whether they come from a good heart or from your anger. Be very careful. Turn your voice off. Get someone who can help you because once it's you and your husband and it's God, and if you have not been listening to God, then maybe you need a representative to come in as that fourth party to speak to you. Stop talking. Get someone who can help you so that you can really address what's going on.
Right.
Because you might not be able to verbalize what you're feeling.
You got to be selective with that fourth party.
Yes, indeed.
That fourth party, and I'm just going to say it, I don't believe that fourth party should be somebody that's close to you.
Yes, definitely not.
Somebody that knows you or has some stake or skin in the game to you or to your spouse.
No.
I believe that fourth party is most effective when they are an outside entity, neutral. You don't go to their church.
Yes.
You ain't paying them tithes. You don't work with them. You don't share a water hose. I don't know anything. It's just somebody else.
Who's going to be fair to hear both
yes.
sides.
Yes.
Because when it is your family or someone you know, we already know that relationship.
It's already biased.
It's already biased.
That's okay.
And then your spouse feels a certain way. So
Right.
find that fourth party that can help you to do this. BHOW.
So when she said, when
Mhm.
Kim, before she said go to the house, when she said it's going to be fair if there's such thing to
Well.
both parties, you need to understand it needs to be that, because if there's an issue in your marriage, 99% of the times it's both parties
Absolutely.
that have, something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have somebody that can talk to both of your stuff.
And doesn't already know your stuff.
Right.
You need
Right.
that fourth party. So
Right.
the first party is you, the second is, or first party is him, then you, then that third party is God, because he should always be involved. And that fourth party is someone who can support you
Yes.
and to help you to be HOW. We've talked about this. We've done a session on this before. H being honest, O being open, and W being willing.
Woo.
If you are not honest about what's going on and yourself, if you're not open to make any changes within yourself and what's going on, and if you're not willing to accept the support that someone can give you, then I guarantee you, you are not ready for this large thing
Yes.
called marriage.
And-
Just
and
are not.
honest, open, and willing saved my life.
Mhm.
I'm not even kidding you right now. I'm not exaggerating. I would be dead right now if I was not introduced to that principle right there.
Mhm.
Right? So that applies to every area
Every
of your
area
life.
of your life.
Every area that has to do with maturing or self-development in any way, honest, open, and willing. It sounds easy.
But it's not. You're going to do it every time.
Yep.
And the other part of that, if you choose not to be honest, open, and willing, let me tell you what you're doing. You are housing open wounds.
Yep.
You're keeping them inside, and you are soothing and bleeding from the inside out. And what happens is that gets on everything that you're involved with. You've got to be honest, open, and willing. And if you need a fourth party and you can't afford one, reach out. If you're connected to us, we'll find someone who you can
Connect you
talk
with,
to.
yes.
Yes, but please don't sit there housing open wounds.
Because they fester.
Yes, indeed.
And eventually you have to get that limb cut off.
Absolutely.
Right?
This is our last one.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes.
Go ahead, babe.
Oh, sow what you want to receive.
That's right.
Sow what you want. So I kind of mentioned a little bit in number 3, but what you want from your wife or your husband is what you have to give
That's
them.
right.
So for instance, say you broke trust with your husband or your wife, then if you want their trust back, then you're going to have to give them yours.
That's right.
You know, and this is biblical. This is scripture. I think it's what is it? I wrote it down.
I'm sorry.
Luke 6:38, where he talks about give and it shall be given unto you. What did you give? It shall be given unto you. Press down, shake, and run over. Right. So what you sow is you'll reap.
You're reaping it.
You know. So we want you to understand that as you're walking through these steps.
Yes.
Right. Now you want to see change. Well, you have to give the change
That's
that
right.
you want to see.
And be that change.
Yes. And that's just the way it works.
You want love, you want someone to give you affection, then be that affection that you hope to see. We use this principle in our classrooms as teachers.
Right.
I model the behavior that I want my students to do. I'm the model. So if it's something you want from that mate, then you model it first.
Yes.
And it might take them some time before they pick it up.
Thank you for saying that. So
Yes.
you can't just say, well, I did it.
Yeah.
I showed them care. You did it one time.
One time.
You know, and they didn't receive it. Well, if you've been out, you know, for years getting high or drinking or gambling or
Right.
cheating, and now you want to get yourself together, you think that's gonna be a 1 week turnaround?
It's not that.
No, you trust is broken.
Exactly.
You got to rebuild that
Rebuild and
foundation. You got to
reestablish.
dig it up, create another framework, get the ground right, mix the cement, pour it in. There's some work that has to be done.
Absolutely.
So you have to sow what you want to receive. It's time. It's time. It's time. So
Yes, it is time. We have to go. I just need to read this one thing, The Art of Compromise. It's from our book in chapter 11. Compromise is not about picking or winning battles or about what each person must give or take. It's about coming together to keep the promise that was made when the marriage vows were spoken. That is our thing. Think about it. We will be back next week. Guys, we got to go. Our time is up, and Lady Rain always has another meeting. So we thank you all for coming on. Say your little thing, babe.
oh, I gotta say my thing.
Yes.
My thing is, we hope you grab some more that you can take with you to educate yourself, motivate yourself, and help yourself grow. And as usual, make it a great day, or not, because that choice is always, my friend, always yours.
Bye-bye. We'll see you next week, and thank you for stopping by.
I like my shirt, my wife bought me. I love HBCU.
Bye, guys.
We love you guys.
Holy Ghost, I'm so grateful, God, you know you did the most when you created her for me, Lord, you know I have witnessed your glory, all this favor you showed me. When you gave it to me, I had to learn what to do with your blessing. Now I know that a man who findeth a wife finds a good thing. So every time I think of her, I'm thinking you. And when I give my love to her, I'm thanking you. Loving her like Christ led a church, 'cause you told me to. Yeah, she a missy on your glory. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm worthy, but I'm under your covenant, so I ain't worried. I'm just thanking you. When I think of her, I'm just thanking you. When I give her love, I'm just thanking you. Married and in love, I'm just thanking you. When I think of her, I'm just thanking you. When I give her love, I'm just thanking you. Married and in love, I'm just thanking you. Song of Solomon, chapter 8. Read it to me, tell me what it says. I know that you don't make mistakes, so if it's in the book, then it must be okay to love her. No, I'm not ashamed, I won't shy away. I know I was made to love her. God give me grace, and I hope that every night feels like a wedding night. I pray, oh yeah. Yes, a man who findeth a wife finds a good thing. So every time I think of her, I'm thanking you. And when I give my love to her, I'm thanking you. Loving her like Christ led a church, 'cause you told me to. Yeah, she a missy on your glory. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm worthy, but I'm under your covenant, so I ain't worried. I'm just thanking you. I don't understand why we can't talk about being in love with the one he gave us. He know what he was doing, 'cause she was his greatest creation. So I hope that you don't mind when I testify the way I do. So when I think about loving her, I just wanna thank you. And when I give my love to her, I'm thanking you. Loving her like Christ led a church, 'cause you told me to. Yeah, she a missy on your glory. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm worthy, but I'm under your covenant, so I ain't worried. I'm just thanking you. When I think of her, I'm just thanking you. When I give her love, I'm just thanking you. Married and in love, I'm just thanking you. When I think of her, I'm just thanking you. When I give her love, I'm just thanking you. Married and in love, I'm just thanking you.
You are tuned in to that praisey station, Praise.fm, where we get our praise on. 24 hours.